Hello and welcome to our Real Estate Climate segment. It's now my pleasure to introduce Kelly Hunt from CSR Real Estate Services. Kelly, thanks for being on our show again.
Thanks for having me back.
Oh, you're welcome. It's always good to have you on.
Thank you.
Today this is a great topic because inventories drive a lot of things. It drives urgency or complacency with buyers usually.
Right.
So,
That's correct.
so you want to just jump right in? What's the latest with inventories?
Well, what I wanted to chat about was the current inventory situation and what the type of market is we have right now. Because I'm
And
really
maybe how it's affecting buyers and sellers.
buyers versus sellers market. There's
Yeah.
still a lot of people out there that really don't have an idea of the accuracy of the market conditions we have right here in the Bay Area. So if you watch the state news or the national news, obviously there's a lot of naysayers still talking about how the economy is, but if you look at the market that we have right now here locally, it's a lot different than that.
It's
And
a lot stronger.
It's very strong. In fact, the inventory is incredibly low right now. It's a historical low, so it's really impacting that supply and demand that we constantly talk about when it comes to selling things.
And the point you made about having accurate news about the market you're willing to buy in is very, very important, because if you aren't tuned into a local market, then you're going to pause. If you think, oh, well, this really isn't that important. I don't have time to go see that house today.
Right.
Tomorrow it may be gone.
That's right, and that is how fast things are going right now. And when I've been talking to homeowners, a lot of them are making decisions based on what they're hearing nationally. So they're deciding to sit and wait for the seller's market to arrive, and that actually has occurred earlier in this year. In fact, I brought some statistics with me that I thought would be important for people to see. And this is indicative of Santa Clara County, and this is a history of what's been going on for the past 12 months. So here we are at September right now, and here's where we were last September.
That's remarkable.
And to take a closer look at what's going on, this is since April. So typically we see a peak occurs after April as we get into the summer with the inventory. So this is showing you that right now the inventory has been on a downward trend, and we don't foresee anything changing in that area for some time.
Right.
So it's definitely creating a huge demand for housing.
Of course. And the impact again falls on, the benefit is to sellers, but the impact really is on buyers.
Right. Well, it impacts how you're going to approach buying a home. Some people are still sitting back and waiting for the market to hit bottom, and the reality is here we hit bottom around, I think, March actually of 2009. So since that time, we've been on a pretty steady upward trend. We had a little bit of a correction the fourth quarter of 2010, but that's just a seasonal lull. That wasn't a trend by any means. And since that time, it's been on a steady climb up. So buyers really should get off the fence and get moving forward with buying a home, especially with the rates the way they are right now.
I mean, if they want to, and I on the lending side, I see that clients oftentimes will say, well, I made an offer, and if they don't accept my offer, then I'll just wait for another home.
Right.
And I try to counsel them to say, if you get countered maybe a few $1,000s, $5,000 or even $10,000, it really impacts you. Your payment will go higher, your down payment a little bit more,
right?
But your payment goes up about $5 per thousand.
Right.
So if you find a house you like, are you not going to purchase it for $50 a month if they ask you to pay $10,000 more for it?
Right. And the reality is if you don't step up to the plate, then what will occur is the next house that goes on the market in that exact same neighborhood is going to be much higher priced, and you're going to have to bid still with those buyers. So you're better off just when you find a property you like, take it off the market.
I mean, you have to live within your means and live within your budget.
Absolutely.
So if you're seeing homes and you get outpriced by others, well, then you just have to wait for another home or look for a different neighborhood.
Right.
But if it's in your sweet spot and you've got some room, and a good mortgage person will help you as help a buyer understand where that tolerance is.
Right.
And when you factor in after-tax payments and so on, the difference is maybe $3 per thousand.
It's negligible, definitely.
In the big picture, when you're looking to live in a community, a neighborhood, the schools you might want for your children, the schools you may want just to have a better investment in your home.
Right, absolutely.
Right? So,
well,
but what's going on with inventories? I mean, why is this happening?
Well, I think there's a couple of different opinions, obviously, who you ask, but some of the things I've been running into is, number one is that most homeowners aren't really aware of what the market conditions are. And once I talk to them about the inventory, they're actually quite shocked. And they're like, well, that means I should be selling my house. And the answer is absolutely yes. The other thing is that I think there's a lot of homeowners out there that have been right at the watermark as far as the equity in their home. They may have had two jobs or two incomes when they bought the home, and now they only have one. So they really can't afford to keep the house long-term, but they didn't want to do a foreclosure or a short sale, so they're just kind of sitting and waiting. So I think what's going to happen is the values continue to go up. We're going to see some of those homeowners put their houses on the market once they hit that watermark. One thing I do want to clarify, though, is a lot of people like to think that there's this shadow inventory out there of all these bank-owned homes that they're sitting on that are just going to come flooding the market.
Because we continue to hear that in the
Right,
media.
we do, but the reality is that's not going to occur here. We don't have that percentage of distressed sales here in the Bay Area that you'll see in other parts, even as close as Central Valley. And even then, those homes are still going like hotcakes right now. So I don't think people should wait for that shadow inventory to arrive.
Well, so tell me about like for a seller, do they have to worry about maybe not pricing their house correctly? Is it, what's the strategy for dealing with how you counsel a seller when they're looking at pricing a house?
Yeah,
I see you smiling. That's
yeah,
interesting.
it's interesting because obviously they think if you just throw it out there, it's going to sell, and the answer is yes. If you price it right, it will sell. But the reality is, if a home goes on the market nowadays, the typical trend is it goes on the market 1 week, you do your open houses that weekend, and it goes into contract the following Wednesday or Thursday. It's that simple. That's how fast properties are going right now.
So if it doesn't happen,
then it's overpriced or there's something wrong with the property. And even if there's something wrong with the property, if it's priced well, it will still sell.
correct.
So
and I'll tell you, when I go to the breakfast meetings throughout the week, it'll constantly happen. And well, my house has been on the market, and everybody will cheer up. There's either something wrong or it's priced wrong.
Right. And the bottom line is priced wrong.
Lower the price,
yes.
and it'll sell.
Exactly.
So have a proper expectation.
Correct.
Correct. That's really important. And using a quality realtor like yourself, you'll give people the expectation of this is the sweet spot of where it'll sell.
Right.
If you get multiple offers, it might sell beyond it.
Right.
Homes in the market always seem to find their water market, their watermark,
Their watermark.
and the market finds its price.
That's correct. Yeah. The buyers will tell you what the market will bear.
So let's talk about buyers. How do they improve their opportunity or chances in this market?
Yeah, it's been very complicated for buyers. Obviously, there's the bidding wars that
I'd
are
say
going
very
on.
frustrating, too.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. And even
Complicated,
even for realtors, it can get frustrating. But I think what's important is that buyers need to look at how they're structuring their financing. For example, there's a lot of first-time home buyers out there, as you know, doing FHA,
Sure.
3.5% down or possibly 5% down. I like to encourage buyers to try to at least get to the 5% mark if at all possible, because then they go from an FHA situation to a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac conventional type loan. And when you're up against other buyers, a lot of times listing agents and sellers will just kind of shy away from an FHA buyer. I'd hate, I don't want to say they're being discriminated against, but the reality is it's a little more complex doing an FHA buyer than it is a conventional buyer. The other thing too is that a lot of people out there have 401ks, and the reality is you're borrowing. If you're only putting 5% of your own funds down, you're borrowing 95% of the purchase of the home anyway.
Right.
So if there's a way to pull 5% or maybe even 10 or 15% from your 401k, you're paying yourself back as opposed to the lender.
You're still borrowing the 95%.
But when you present
Right.
your offer to a listing agent and a seller, you're putting that full 10% or 20% down. It's coming from your own funds in another area.
Right.
So I think buyers are going to have a better advantage if they're putting more down payment. And what I think is really important, though, too, is for buyers to make sure that they're working with a very strong, educated, and experienced agent, because there's a lot of agents out there that are
Couldn't agree more.
They're presenting offers, and the buyers, unfortunately, are not aware of how those offers are being presented, meaning they're not really complete. They don't have all the documentation, the disclosures that they're required or should have in their packages.
Correct.
I believe it's important to go in with all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, but there's a lot of agents out there that aren't doing that. As a listing agent, I've been in situations where I'm reviewing multiple offers, and there'll be 2 offers side by side, and one's actually higher than the other one, but they don't have their pre-approval letter, and the offer isn't complete. So it means I have to counter that just to do that agent's job. And I can tell you right now, as a listing agent, we're looking at that buyer's agent is probably going to act that way the entire transaction.
And if they're close, you'll take the other because
That is correct.
it's
That
just
is
better.
correct. So just really make sure that you talk with your agent, find out how they're presenting their offers. Are they doing them in person? I recommend my clients do a personal letter. It talks about them, picture them, the family, the dog, whatever it takes to put that
To set
personal
yourself aside
touch.
and
Yes,
apart.
because the majority of our sales right now are traditional. They're not REOs and short sales.
Right. And we got to close, but I do want to mention to all of you who are thinking that maybe an FHA loan is what you had to choose, and that's the way it goes. You still get in a contract.
Right.
It's just there's a scrutiny that the appraisal and the whole process goes through that a conventional one doesn't go through. So it's really, that's what sellers are trying to stay away from if they can.
Right, and it doesn't mean you
Sorry.
can't get into contract, because I do get my FHA buyers into contract.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
if you can
as well, we
improve
do.
your situation,
And a conventional just is cleaner on the
Yeah.
seller side. So anyway, thanks so much for being on. It's great information.
thanks for having me
I
back.
appreciate you being on the show.